All right, we are live.
We're back, y'all.
So if you, I don't like the way this is framed. Okay, that's better.
Fix it. Oh, you do
If you get our email, if you don't get our emails, okay. So my husband had two tabs open, and I just heard myself as an echo.
Why
We
you
don't get
on
the
me?
because it's your computer. We don't get this started, y'all. If you got our latest email, then you know that we are not into regrets. But there are a few things that I do regret. I do wish that we would have moved abroad earlier,
A lot earlier.
so that our kids could experience,
Oh my God.
growing up here, even just a little bit.
The things that I wouldn't do to have that, to go back in time and be able to do that. I mean, for our parents, your dad or your mom bringing them over here, younger, understanding different things, it would have probably changed their whole way of, their whole perspective, their way of thinking. And I mean, life would have been different.
Yeah, for both of them, for all of us, And so, I mean, no regrets, but a little bit of regret. And I think, the moment that we decided to start living life for today.
Yeah. I mean, and we've been getting more calls too about couples wanting to bring family with them and different things like that, especially with kids. And we never really always had the answers. We'd have to go and search them because
we ain't got no little kids.
But with our guest today,
yes,
Tadassi and Melvin.
Yes.
I didn't say Tadashi.
Yes, he was trying to Portuguese her name.
I was going to Portuguese her. I'm sorry.
We will talk about that and a lot more, but first let's introduce ourselves.
Well, wait a minute. Let's tell who they brought. They brought Drew with them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know.
And Drew's going to pop through at the end. So that's going to be the special guest. Yeah. Drew will be in the house.
So Melvin and Tadassi are not the special guest. Actually, Drew's the special guest.
Drew's the special guest.
Well, my name's Halisi.
And I'm Rick. Welcome to our Black Utopia.
On our channel, we talk about money, travel, and retiring abroad as we build international wealth and generational wealth.
Too.
We help folks who have gotten close to retirement and forgot to plan, get their money straight so that they can retire on time. We've got a ready to retire toolkit and a move abroad toolkit that are in the description below. And we're going to be rolling out our Get Your Money Straight self-paced on-demand course.
It's coming, y'all.
Yes. Pre-sales will probably are going to start this week. And with the pre-sale, you will get group coaching. So if you don't get it on the pre-sale, no group coaching. Hey, so without further ado, let's get to our topic today and welcome all the way from Chicago to Porto to Lisbon, Melvin and Tadassi. Hey, y'all.
Melvin, hey, Tadassi.
Hey. How are you?
Good.
Good. So tell us what you are doing right now so we can give a little plug to a more affordable way to travel.
Yeah, so we are house sitting right now. We actually, so we were traveling for a year. We, I don't know, we were looking to move abroad. There were some things in the United States that made us move up our timeline. We wanted to do it during our son's high school years. Mm-hmm. And we decided to do it earlier, but we didn't want to do it too hastily. So we said, why not become nomads for a year? Because if we can do that, then we could see other places. We could see, we can stop into Portugal because that was one of the places on our list that we wanted to check out. So we did that. And while we were doing that, we actually signed up for house sitting and started to just kind of fold that into the different areas we wanted to go to. So we didn't know if we would continue being nomads for the next year for 2023, but we knew we would not stay in the United States. So we accepted a house sit in Porto because we hadn't been the last time we visited Portugal. So we decided to apply for our visas and keep the house sit. We said if we get, we anticipated getting here a little bit earlier, but we had some family who was ill and some things going on there. So we didn't get here early December like we wanted to, but the visa got approved in enough time, and just actually about 4 days?
About 4 days, before. Yeah.
About 4 days before our house sit was supposed to start. So we've actually been in Porto longer than we've been in our new neighborhood.
Yes. So we know more about Porto streets than Oida streets.
Yep. So that's what we're doing. We're house sitting. A beautiful chocolate lab. She's around here somewhere, and it's actually perfect. House sitting, I hadn't considered it I knew about it, but didn't consider it because I wondered if anybody would pick us with the child. We travel with our son, and we've done that since he was young. But we just said, you know what, we'll give it a try. And if we get, 2 nights in some place that's expensive, then it pays for the year's membership.
Yeah.
So we actually, what did we do? We traveled all around England, and for 2 months.
For 2 months, yeah.
And we stayed in a hotel for 4 nights.
I think she's underselling her skills, because she found house sitting. She did our profile. She does all the writing. She makes the applications. She brings it to Drew and I as like a board. She says, okay, here's what we want to do, and she gets our sign off, and then we go for it, right? So she actually applied for a couple house sets, and the first one she applied for, we didn't get, but I think the person was looking for more experience. But every other one she's applied for, she's pretty much gotten. She got literally 2 months in the UK. We went from East London to Abingdon to Manchester
to
Oxford, yep. And
then we stayed in some great neighborhoods.
Great
neighborhoods, great families. And if anyone is hesitant to do it, especially with a child, your kids. My son is a little guy, and he's well behaved, and he knows that we like animals, so it kind of fills that void. So he likes going to run with the dog at the pet park.
Yes.
We really love cats. So I have an allergy, and I'm still around cats all the time. It actually makes my tolerance level higher. But if I haven't been around cats in a while, then I will have a little bit of a reaction for a few weeks. But at any rate, with children, your kids, if they're going to be respectful to your property and someone else's properties. We had a lot of families that was like, man, it's refreshing not to have a single person in this big house or in this big. So it really worked out. And I wasn't expecting that for them to say. And even we were nomads, and they were like, what you're doing with your son is amazing. I wish I had done that with my, with my kids. So it helped us get house sits where I thought maybe it would hinder us because we weren't, planted anywhere.
I'm going to ask you more about traveling around for a year with Drew. But first, we are going to say hello to some folks who are in the chat, because the fam is in fam is in the chat. So, hey, Auntie Trey. Auntie Trey was here 45 minutes early, y'all, waiting for this conversation.
Yes.
Hey, Venus, good to see you. And Tanisha, hello there, Action VJ. Hit the like button, y'all. I love you, Action VJ. Always, always, always. Christy, good to see you. Vicky from New Jersey. Ooh, sounds cold. Maria from Maryland. Ooh, sounds cold. And Marquita's from Maryland as well. Hey, BP.
BP, how you doing?
Yes, good to see you. Good to see you, Dana and Greta.
Greta.
From upstate New York. Is it freezing up there as well? Because, I know our guests are from Chicago, and they said they're having a little bit of a warm spell there. Hey, Vanessa. But I don't know. Hey, Isan1, good to see you again. Rocket for Fun. Is that a new name?
Rocket for Fun sounds new.
Sounds new. Welcome, 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 welcome. Hey, Meriton Martin, Lucille,
Lucille.
Kelly S., Krishan.
Hey,
Hey, good to
Krishan.
see you. Barbara from Connecticut and Professor. Good afternoon. Latina Yogi is back. Good to see
Yes.
you again.
Yes.
And Miss Stethoscope Travels. So, are you a traveling doctor, or are you just a doctor who likes to travel, or a nurse who likes to travel? See, cold and wet in Atlanta. That's what my friend said.
Yeah.
That's what my friend said. See, hey, high vibe. Good to see you. Who else? Killer
Killer
Queen
Queen.
is in the house,
Yes.
and Southern Rose. Good. I'm glad you made it this time. She had to
Yeah.
watch the rerun, the last one. Okay, Killer Queen from. Oh, you're in Cascais.
Wow.
Nice. Great.
Kashkaish.
Yay.
You up the road.
That's right. Hey, Jeanette, and Exodus Live. And Dawn is in the house from Puerto Vallarta. Oh, she met with Teresa
Good.
for her immigration, and everything went well.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Awesome.
Yay, yay, yay. Because we talked to someone, and I think the day before yesterday, the machine was broke
Yeah, the machine went down. They couldn't take
in
pictures.
PV. So Krishan, we can answer this question right now. But we're gonna, Nubia Net is in the house. Shauna is in the house. Chris. Oh, good. Hey there.
Hey,
I'm
Chris.
glad you made it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. They did use trusted house sitters, Jeanette.
Yes.
Yes.
Donna and Dainty B. Hello, Stacy A. Hello, 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 everyone. And then Krishan was asking, is it easy to find house sits in Portugal?
I don't know how easy it is. I saw this one in June, and we were in
That's a-
Valencia.
That's a long time
we were
ago.
in Spain. I saw it, and I'm like, I'm gonna apply for this in January, even though I didn't know, because I figured it would go, and we're walking distance to everything,
Yes.
to everything there is to see in Porto.
Yeah.
So
They don't come up. And when you say easy to get them, yeah, if you've got 5 stars, yeah, they're easy to get. But they don't come up often. There's more in Spain that I saw, more in France, more in Germany, and a ton in the UK.
yeah,
So I'm not
for
surprised.
the UK, it's a great place to start, especially
It's
if you haven't been
almost
to
like-
London, and
Right.
and it's very expensive there. So
Very expensive.
Yeah. It's a great place to start. I'm like, did it originate in the UK? Because they always
it feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what time of year, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds on that small island, including Ireland and Scotland.
Yes.
So y'all know the rules. Put a Q in front of your question. We're going to get started though and ask our questions, and then we will start weaving in y'all's questions. So I don't know where I want to start. I think I want to start with Drew. So let's start with Drew, and then we're going to get into the deep stuff. So Nomads for a year. So was he doing online school? Tell us about that and how that worked, and what changes you saw in your son.
So, well, for Drew, school was always social, right? So our Drew is very special. We love him to death. He used to drive us crazy because he loved to read books. So we wanted to get him outside, right? So we put him in school so he can meet some other kids, have fun, and learn how to play, because he would literally spend every waking moment reading books, right?
To his bears,
to the cat, he just read and read and read. So, the first kindergarten through 4th grade was in school, and then COVID happens, right? So when COVID happens, we tried the local schools online curriculum. We didn't like it. It wasn't really meeting our needs. So then we went with Connections Academy, and that met our needs because it allowed him to really flourish academically and move ahead as fast as he wanted to move ahead and really get into it. At the same time, giving him the opportunity to have classes with other kids. So he attends classes, 2 hours a day?
Not every day, but he attends. The classes are optional, and he attends often. So at least several times a week, even with the time change. But again, he is he's unique in that way that he started the book club at the school.
He did, yeah.
So he likes to join the book club
Okay.
meetings, even though him and the co-founder, they alternate who facilitates. And their teacher is on there, but she lets them run it, just to make sure everything is going good and, they're following the processes. So she's just great at the independence pieces of it. So even if he's not facilitating, he likes to join, he engages. Drew is actually in 8th grade. He, in 5th grade? In 5th grade, he skipped to 7th. And that wasn't us, that was the school. Like,
Wow.
I never advocate for that because just socially, I just feel like, my baby's baby, and I don't want and you're at different levels at different times in your age, but his teachers just didn't feel as if because of his test scores and his just his grades, and I don't know, they just felt like he just wasn't challenged. So they said he really should have been moved further, but they're like, we're just going to do 1 grade. And it kind of worked out because when he started 7th grade, some of the math, which he can do with his eyes closed, it was a little challenging, for a minute. Of course,
Okay.
no, it's nothing. But, for a minute, it was like, okay, like he just felt like I need to, I'm like, Drew, you don't have to get an A on everything. It's just comprehension. That's all I really care about. Are you understanding? And so for him, it wasn't really about needing instruction to study, but he is a kid. So, he loves the flexibility to sleep in if he wants, to work ahead if he wants. And he's had a couple of, I got burned moments where he wasn't studying as much as he should have. And then he gets that C or that, F. And it might be just a practice, you know what I'm saying? But for Drew, that's unacceptable for him, so for himself. So we just take the stance that you earned that grade. If you got that grade, that's the grade you earn. You can earn another grade. So he's learned that lesson at a young age. So now fast forward, he's in 8th grade and if he has a test or a quiz or anything, you don't have to tell Drew to study. He's going to study.
Yeah.
Like he does it because to him, if I don't, then I'm going to get a grade that I don't like. And my parents are going to say I earned that grade. Like, it ain't going to bother me. It's not my grade. Like, it's your grade. Like for a lot of things, I think that children have to want to do it for themselves because we can't want it more than they want it. So for him, I'm like, I'm not going to get upset because I know that what your potential is, but you have to earn the grade. Like you can't just, expect that you're going to get high marks if you don't put in that type of effort. So, so homeschooling, my point is for him, it wasn't a matter of taking him out the classroom. It was just a matter of finding a program that could work for us in any country.
Yes. Yeah. And then with the travel, it works out because we get to supplement his learning with actually being there. So we were in Mexico City during the Mexican celebration for their country, right? So we got to hear the story of Mexico directly from the Mexicans in the middle of Mexico City. At the same time, he was taking his coursework was about Mexican history. Yeah. So of course he loved it. He was able to he ate the test up. He ate all the material up. How could you not? When you're standing at the Zugrat, and you're telling you everything about it.
When you're learning while you're living.
Yes.
Exactly.
Even discrepancies in history or in books. Like when we go to different museums, he will point out the discrepancies just in the timelines. If it seems like, maybe the Greeks created this system, but they say that Romans did it, so it's like, but Drew will say, according to the timeline, it really wasn't the Romans, it was the Greeks, so it is that actually is what kind of stemmed us and encouraged us, I think, right? Because when we went to Stonehenge,
yes,
and the Roman baths, and he was 9,
Was he 9 or was he a little younger?
No, I think he was 9, but
Yeah.
he was mind blown from
I
reading
bet.
about Stonehenge
Okay.
and seeing
Seeing it
Yeah.
in real life. I know.
his friends were like, Drew, what? You went to Stonehenge? Like they were like, like he just, it was like light bulbs on, okay, this is not just, this is real, what I'm reading, because we do ask children to believe a lot,
Right,
so
right.
it does help to, if you can see some of the places and learn about some of the places. And, for us as adults, we just want to learn more about places, not just some of the education about different places around the world is not as full as it should be.
Especially in the United States. I mean, come on. We
in
don't.
the United States. And there is a lot of, I don't know if it's fear mongering. Is that the right word? It's just,
Yes.
you don't want to, like, I wanted Drew to see that the world is kind. The world isn't
Scary. Exactly.
Yeah, so because he's going to, so that he can not think twice when there's a study abroad or when there's a field trip here or there, worry about, the things I had to worry about when I was little, like brush your teeth. Did you do your hygiene? Don't embarrass me as a parent.
Did you put on clean underwear?
Don't be scared of the place you're going to. Just make sure you make it to bed in the morning and, put your socks in your bag, like that type of stuff. So those are the things I just think, just be a kid and not be afraid of whatever opportunities come up.
So you said before that you moved the timeline up. So you guys moved from Chicago to Portugal, and you were going to wait until he was in high school. Well, he's still in middle school.
Yes.
So you said you moved the timeline up because of some stuff that was happening in the States. Can you tell us more about that?
So our anniversary is on January 6th.
And we turned on the TV one day.
So one day, we're home getting ready for our anniversary dinner. It was during COVID. We were like, well, it's going to be a really simple dinner. We're going to go on our back patio, beautiful house, back patio. We're going to light the heaters up. We're going to have our fondue, and we're going to sit outside. We're going to toast marshmallows, do all the fun things, right? So turn the TV on, and we see some yahoos storming the Capitol. And we know things were bad. We didn't think that they were that bad, right? And
I did.
Yeah. Well, she did. She always says that, right? Well, and I told her, I said, well, hon, Biden became president. That gives us 4 more years to really get our finances exactly where we want them to be. Halfway through there, Drew will be going to high school. We can do our plans, and then, it was like, we're out. Yeah.
Because it's in the United States, what's happening right now is we keep moving the goalposts. Like we keep saying, if this just happens, if this one thing, that's bad. But if this happens, then the bad things happens. And then we say, but if XYZ happens, then and then that bad thing happens. And we're like, it's not that bad until XYZ happens. Right. And we're not. And I just think that we all have common sense. We can see kind of what's going on. We know how we feel. We knew financially that was an excuse. We were ready. We didn't have, we could live anywhere. And we knew that. So it's more, is it fear? Or is it just, let's just make some more money, or let's just, so we knew that those weren't the things first. Because when we first started, remember we said 7 years.
Yes.
Then we couldn't do 7 years when working for us. So then we said 4 years. We said, okay, we'll do 4 years. And then we said, when Drew starts, high school, we'll do it. We'll travel for those 4 years, and he can decide if he wants to stay with us and do some online college, if he wants to go to university. So we kept, but then we have all the spreadsheets. We put in everything. We have good saving habits. So all of those things were gone. Like there was no reason to run, and there was no reason to stay. We had to want to go. We had to want to, we wanted to experience living abroad, and we weren't there was no reason that someone else was going to give us. Like we had to want it enough or be brave enough. And that's why we compromised and said, well, let's just travel around. Because we do, we listen to our families, we listen to, friends, and it's like, man, it just seems so permanent if you just, move right away.
Right.
So, and it is permanent.
Yeah.
It's not permanent. That's the one thing. It's just permanent in people's mind. Just like we move from state to state, we can move back.
You can always move back.
For us is a pleasant option. And we can get to know the country, and we can travel to other places nearby. But we didn't come here with any expectations that Portugal owes us something. And I think that's something that you have to kind of know yourself, like kind of what you're seeking or because sometimes people come to a place looking for something from the place. And that could be like financial things. It could be like maybe like now the rents are, it's going up everywhere. It's not as much as in the US, but it's impacting Europe as well. So if you are looking for like, maybe you need to stay within a budget. So it may not work for you to move, to a European country where the rents, in my opinion, are pretty fair. You probably have to do some research and have someone look for you and things like that. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they're overly inflated. They can be if you're, I don't know. They can be, but I just think you have your standards, you know what you're looking for, you know what's fair, you get to talk to people or whatever. But you may say, okay, for me, I was looking to cut my expenses in half, and I can't do that in that place. That totally makes sense. But the place didn't I don't think the place owes you that. That it's just, you have to kind of know the place or, to get out and maybe socialize or whatever, like those type of things we have to seek for ourselves. And we look for these places to fill these holes. And I don't think it exists. I think it's, it's in us,
I'd like to add to that. Krishan says, and folks are agreeing with you in the chat there. But we do keep rationalizing, right? And it's kind of like frogs in a pot, right? How they say, you just the heat, you turn on the heat on low. Eventually, it's going to start boiling.
Yeah.
And it was the same for us because we started saying it when Sarah Palin showed up on the scene. We know how long ago that was. Yeah. Thankfully, that one went our way, and she went bye-bye. But we started looking at Canada back then.
Yeah.
And even South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, well, we had taken a trip to South Africa for your thing for school and stuff, and
yeah.
Just looked at everything.
You can research, you can look around, but if you really are a responsible adult, especially people who are coming in there working, you can work anywhere.
Yeah.
You can pay your bill. Portugal is a country like any other. They got malls, they got stores, they got restaurants, they got, they have beautiful things because it's so old, but it's not like, I think we make ourselves think that the United States is this anomaly, like there's no Mac store anywhere else or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
They have everything, you can get your makeup, you can get whatever, you can live a life. You can live your life in a lot of places outside of the U.S. And for us right now, it just happens to be Portugal.
And that's the
but
thing.
Also you have the protections on food and food product and everything like that here that you don't have in the United States anymore.
Very true.
There's stuff that they put in the meats and the steroids and stuff they put in the meats in the U.S. They can't do that here.
The food tastes different.
It tastes totally different.
And there's not sugar in every loaf of bread, right?
Exactly.
So, and that makes a big difference. So we're talking the other day. We've been here for 3 weeks, and we've been we eat bread. I love I love a good pastry. You know, I love to find a good pastry shop.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you know, every time we come to Europe, you know, or even Mexico, you know, I end up losing like a lot of weight. So I go from being in a double XL to a large, you know, in a matter of a couple months, you know. And the reason being is because, like you said, Rick, the food is different. It's
Right.
different because there are food protections to make it better for us, you know.
Yeah.
And we occasionally eat fish, but we don't eat meat. So
Okay.
that shows you how much are in fillers. So most of the time we're eating vegetables. That's most of the time. So that means all the cookies, crafts, chip that he has that's labeled vegan, you know, is just full of processed things because it's not like he's having burgers and cheese and,
Right.
you know, big, you know, things that you would think that, right, that will get your, that where you might gain weight or, you know, or fast food, you know, he's not having that even in the US. So there is an extreme difference in the, and I'm telling you guys, I can't even pass a fruiteria. I can't. I'm like, can we just get some oranges? Can we get some?
I know
Yeah.
they're everywhere, right?
You smell it when you walk.
I know, right?
You smell it just walking past, and you get so much, and it's not even €10.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I got, I told him I was going on a fruitaria shopping trip, and I came back with a bag full of fruit and a couple of vegetables because we had already gotten vegetables, but it was under €5.
Yes.
It was under €5.
Yeah.
So and still plums are still, I guess they still grow here because there's plums there and everything else. So, so you went and got your hair braided in Porto, huh?
I did.
Looks
I got
beautiful.
my hair braided.
Go like this. Go like this.
It
so
looks
we can
good.
see.
It looks good.
Yeah,
There you go.
I like it. Thank you. I called my girlfriends. I videoed my girlfriends. I was like, I like my hair for under 100 US. Yes, I love it.
How much does
because I don't get my hair braided. I don't get my hair braided in the US because it's like way too expensive, but I get it braided every time. It was €85.
No, how much is it in the US?
For I think 300.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't had hair in a long time, so I don't know.
But I even got my hair braided in Guadalajara, and the girl, really sweet, came to my Airbnb, braided my hair and everything, and it was $50 US.
Wow.
So even in Mexico, I just went on like Facebook or I think I went to like a Facebook group and I just looked through and where they said, you know, like this girl is good. And I called her and she's like, what did she say? I forgot how many pesos she said, but it came out to 50 US. And I had to force her to eat cake and coffee. I wouldn't let her leave. I'm like, you've been standing here doing my hair. She's like, okay. I'm like, do you want sugar? You know, but it's a totally different experience from sometimes going to the shops in the US. I can't compare them like recently because I haven't been in a long time. I'm kind of do-it-yourselfer, so I can braid my own hair and things like that. And I'm just, for some price points, I feel like teamwork makes the dream work, and paying like thousands of dollars to get your hair done when you have retirement goals and things like that, I'm not doing it. It's a choice, and I'm not knocking the choice. I'm just saying for me, I like my hair when I do it myself too. So I can do it myself. But I like that I was here and I just went in and we don't know Portuguese. We know words, but we are looking into, because I saw Blacks at Global on here and I saw her referral. So I reached out to the Portuguese with Carla because I'm a slow learner, especially with languages, but I was really impressed by her website and the video, everything. It just seems like I could get it, but no matter how long it takes, it's just our goal to try. to try to learn the language as soon as possible, to try to have friends we can speak in Portuguese with. It's so impressive too. I mean, the African ladies in the braid shop, just so impressive. They went from Portuguese to Spanish to,
Right.
We kept saying Spanish words. So to English, just to appease me with no problem. It's just fluent. So I was so proud of them, and I didn't even know that. I'm like, look at these ladies that know all these languages.
I know my barber is Brazilian, and between the 5 Portuguese words that I know and the Spanish that I know, and he knows no English except for what's in rap songs, I suppose, because they did have that playing. We will communicate.
Yeah.
We communicate and get the thing done,
Yeah. So they spoke English, and even it was a girl came in there. She was talking so fast, and the girl braiding my hair, she was like, she's just a baby, because one of them was from
Mozambique.
Mm-hmm. And the other one, and she was just telling me, that she loves it here. But again, it's perspective. The other one was Angolian,
yeah.
And she's been here a year with her family, but she was 18. So to her, I want to go to New York. Right. I want to go to, because she's young and she's in university, but she might want to go to New York. But again, it's very impressive to see an 18-year-old who's speaking about God, who's saying, I wanted to go to New York. And my dad said, you can't go. And I said, well, what if I get in? He said, even if you get in, you can't go. So she's like, I have strict African parents, and they paid for my college. And they said I had to go here. And I said, well, maybe you can take a gap year. I said, and, kind of bop around. I said, you may have romanticized New York, but I didn't want to clip her wings. I mean, she's 18. So see the world, go other places. But it was just pleasing to see her do what her parents wanted her to do, even though she really wanted. I mean, it's something about it for her.
Well, and it's I don't know of any university in New York, unless she was getting a full ride, that would cost what the universities here cost as well. So then there's that piece, right?
Right. So, and that was the point I told her. I said, you probably saved your parents a lot of money.
Yes.
With, going to, because I think she said NYC, it's, the college isn't affordable in the United States. It is a business.
No.
So,
especially the private universities. Yeah. So how did they treat you? How did the Africans treat you?
They treated me like I treated them.
Yes.
Yep. They were a little bit reserved, and I just was super friendly, and that we end up exchanging numbers at the end.
Okay.
Because I think that we got to show each other grace. And I think that sometimes Americans can be a little elitist and a little, don't stink, type thing. And then we say people are mistreating us. So when I went in there, because I don't know the language, and it's okay, so they know I'm not African. So I was just really nice to the person who took the appointment. And she said, I'm off tomorrow, so it'll be my colleague, but no problem. And I was like, thank you so much. And I asked her name and stuff. And she was like, I hope I see you again. So I actually stopped in the other day because I wasn't sure if I had the right number saved to my phone. And they both were there, the person that braided my hair. And they were like, hola, and I was teasing them because because I know more Spanish words. So they know Spanish too, but they still laugh, So, but yeah, they treated me like I treated them, and it's not going to be that way all the time, but I'm not going to sweat it. I'm going to make an effort, because it's not going to change if we don't change it. Not to say that I've had bad experiences, but I do think that, like I was telling you, you create your own 5-star experience. And sometimes you go in, you have a negative attitude, and you're just, if they, you're prepared almost for a fight.
expecting it, right? And you know,
And I
and
don't
that's
want
what
you in my head with all
right.
that, you know.
That negative energy.
Like, I don't want to be sitting there 5 hours and, you know, it's awkward. We talked about everything. You know, we talked
I
for most
love
of
it.
the time, you know, so it made it a more enjoyable experience.
And it's interesting because we were talking about this earlier about bringing our isms with us when we travel abroad. And if you're not from the United States, you don't get it. You
Yeah.
just do not get it. And even the experience that folks from the diaspora have who ended up in Central or South America, it's a different experience. You know, there's racism everywhere. We know that. But the way it shows up down there is a lot different than how it shows up in the United States. And I think one of there's a lot of differences. One is that white folks in the United States, every single white folk thinks it's their job to police us. You know, what are you doing here? Why are you in this neighborhood? You know, and all this other nonsense. And so it's lovely to have the freedom here to just be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To just be. But then the other thing is that crabs in the barrel mentality that is so pervasive in the United States, where we do not hold each other up. We don't have each other's back. You know, there's no, you know, people say, well, just because they're skin folk, they're not kinfolk. True. Because sometimes the one who's stabbing you in the back looks like they could be your cousin, right?
Yeah.
And you know, what do we say to ourselves not to bring that nonsense with us and to come, you know, kind of with an uncolonized mind?
And it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
No.
It's not easy at all because I mean you come and you look and you see things and you want to react to them, or you have to check yourself and is that how I need to react to a situation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, take a deep breath and like today, walking down the street, you know, and Portuguese have a habit of just stopping right in the middle of the street and conversating, and it's like, oh
Yeah,
my
they
god,
do.
the street's only so big,
Well, the
the
sidewalks are very narrow.
sidewalk,
Yes.
and it's like, and I said, the next person that stops in front of me, I'm just going to push out the way, and the guy was behind us
Start
started
laughing.
He just shook his head, looked like an
Yeah.
agreeing, like yes.
So they know
I
how.
think it's just one, you know, it's we got to give ourselves grace. So it's just one encounter at a time. Like, I don't think we could say we're not perfect. We've lived through it. I do think that if we have to ask ourselves, what is our excuse now? Because at some point we have to work on us. And some of those things are things that we don't like about ourselves. So if we remove ourselves from some of those situations,
Right.
like how many people have we, you know, became friends with, and maybe we didn't think when we first met them we would be friends with them or whatever. That's no different from going somewhere else. So I think it comes from not wanting to, you know, plan our own parties. We want to be invited to parties that people don't want us at. You know, it's like we're in the United States and we're fighting the same fights as our ancestors and grandmothers and great grandmothers. Like I said, I really felt like my grandmother was just done. And yep, she was 94, and so was my big mama. We had them for a long time, you know, but it's like the same thing that's always going on. So
Just looks a
at
little
some
different.
point,
That's all.
at some point, it's like, okay, we got the education that they told us to get, right? So we now we're making the money. You know, we can save the money. Now we know about saving. We know about investing. We know about all, you know, so we don't have to be in the jail holding the key. Like we don't have to be, you know, if it works for some people. That's their, you know, it's for some people, it absolutely works. They don't see a problem with it, even though before they go to the neighbors XYZ, they're always, you know, polishing themselves or trying to take the perfect thing and that's stress. That's a lot of stress. That's not freedom so now you've arrived and you're still behaving like you need to be accepted, and living like that is reducing, I think, our life expectancy, and it's impacting our kids because they see it and they grow up in different generations. So they, it's always a braver generation, but you want them to be able to channel that and not be reckless with it. But they're smarter. They see if you're putting on airs, even if you don't see you're putting on airs.
Right.
So at some point it's like, okay, you were here. We didn't, we were told to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps with no boots. But now we got boots. We got boots. So we don't have, now we got options.
Talking about the goalpost keep moving.
Yeah, we got options. Yeah. So we don't have to say.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
and to your question, how do you leave and not bring all that with you, right? So she always tells me, she says, when you grew up in a household, right, and you got the imprint from your siblings, from your parents, from your family, right, and all the things that you felt were wrong with that situation, right, that you want to change, right, you don't keep living in the past, right? Take responsibility for your now and create your own environment, right? So anything that my dad said that was good, and I liked, it's easy for me to bring that forward. But I also bring with me the things that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I bring those things to my kids too, right? So
Right.
she says, well, you have to recognize those things, right? But don't live in those things.
Yeah.
And be the dad that you want to be. So if you want to have a good relationship with people outside the United States, or with the Africans, or with the Brazilians, or with whoever, right, then you have to be the person that you want to be. You can't take all that. And also their experience is different than our experience, right? So
Yes.
I was talking to a guy from Zimbabwe just the other day, right? And I was explaining to him, the Black American experience, right? And I said, Delani, you don't have to take my word for it. You can also talk to Craig. So Craig comes over out of the blue. Craig says the exact same thing that I just have to tell Delani. He said the exact same thing. Now Craig grew up in Florida. I grew up in Tennessee. So we're in the South. So we had this shared experience. It blew Delani's mind, right? And also Delani said, well, how do you come out of that and live this free life? You seem like a very free person. And it's because I take responsibility to not live in that past and live in the now. Because like I don't want Drew to have a shared my past. We left because I wanted to get out of the cycle. Because like she said,
Thank you.
we have like we're reliving the same cycle. They talk about what the white lash, so every time we take 2 steps forward, we get white lash and it knocks us back. Well, why is that? And like I said, if we have options, let's stop. I don't want to experience your white lash. I want to live free, and I want to experience the world. And we find out the world is kind when you go to other places. And
Yes.
you don't have to stay. You can leave.
When we were in Guadalajara, we stayed in Guadalajara for 2 months, and people kept stopping Drew and saying in Spanish that he was welcome.
Yeah.
So I think, just realizing that they know for children, that maybe he might feel, and they would talk Spanish to him because he knew the Spanish. He was actually had a tutor while we were there. So he was taking lessons and he would practice with them. When I went back to that braid shop, I was like, hey, I want you to meet my son, Drew. She said, you're welcome here. You're always welcome here. With that, that's the same thing they say. So for Mexico, that's supposed to be so, like have all of these stereotypes,
Right.
And I'm not, I'm not the ambassador of all these different countries. I know it's not, rainbows and but I'm just saying, go places, experience the people for yourself, see if you like it, see if if you can see yourself living there or see a better life. I often think about, and we talk about, you would think I knew so many senior citizens. I think I'm just old in my mind, but with the cost of things in the US, it bothers me that I know some people on a very fixed income are not eating. They can't be.
Can't be eating.
Like it's $6 for 5 apples. Like, so that their money didn't get longer. you know, that they're having to sacrifice, and they did what you said do. And now they're
and
older.
yet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
and
now
yet,
they're older, and it's like we're not taking care of
no,
our seniors. It's not a good look. We're not, yeah, it's just not a good look.
definitely not. Her alarm went off when George W. That was. I don't think I was paying attention like that in those days. And you know, I think that
You were paying attention because you made mention of him being the C student and
well,
making the
yeah,
world accept that it's okay to be president of the United States and you just have you're C average.
right. We did talk about that kind of stuff, but I don't think I understood the geopolitical implications or talking about fear, right? That a life outside of the United States was really an option for us. And of course, this was before the internet. George W. was before the internet.
Right.
Not the end of his, but the beginning, definitely. It was still new. We had it, but
Yeah, Google so much now. Like I felt foolish when I Googled like, nomads with families, nomads with children. I'm like, you mean to tell me people been doing this
right? Because it just came right up, right?
with infants? Infants,
Yeah.
like they've been traveling with their kids, grew up everywhere,
Yes.
and nowhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's a U.S. thing, right? So,
Yeah.
so in the U.S., we at least we don't think we can go anywhere else, right? So I have colleagues that are from everywhere else, and it's nothing for them to pick up and move to someplace different.
Yep.
So I've got colleagues that moved from Ireland to Portugal, or moved from Portugal to South Africa, or they move all over the globe,
All over the globe, but just us.
and it's nothing for them to do it. And whether they're working in a corporate position, working as a hairdresser, working as a garbage man, whatever it is, they just pick up and go because they say, I can get a better life over in this location, or that I want to go to university in this location to pick up this particular skill. So they just pick up and go.
Yeah.
We think that America has a monopoly. I think Black put on their American exceptionalism. We think that America has a monopoly on education, or monopoly on how to make money, or monopoly on life.
Right.
And it's just a choice of a place that you want to live, right?
Yeah.
If you want to live in America, right, and you want to, then do the things to live in America. If you don't want to live in America, then you should do things to not live in America. Find out what it is to get a visa to go somewhere. Find out what you need to do to stay. Find out what you need to do to make money. These are all things that we can figure out, if we want to.
Right. If we don't buy into the hype. And just like, we're talking about the crab in the barrel mentality, all of that is I think they do that on purpose. You had to show your son that you shouldn't be afraid to leave, that there's all these other places, if you're going to be afraid of something, be afraid not to brush your teeth in the morning. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But that fear, I think that fear is what keeps us stuck.
It's the fear. It's if you were in America right now and you took a survey of 20 people and told them, okay, if you had the choice to move here, or here, different places outside the United States, I bet you the first thing that they would say is, why would you want to leave?
Why would you want to leave America?
Because everybody I talked to, that was the first thing they said to me. Why would you want to leave America?
And it's almost like it can't be because there's other places. Like the United States ain't going nowhere. It's not going anywhere. Like you can go to other places. Just like sometimes you want to move the state. There's people who move from Chicago to Georgia, to Atlanta. There's people who we moved from Chicago to Clarksville, Tennessee. So you can move. You can move about the United States, but you can also move about the world.
Yes.
And it's often cheaper often to travel for a full year than to, have a mortgage and car notes and all of that stuff in the United States. So
and fancy clothes to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it depends, but we have to know the options are out there. And I know you guys mentioned, like some regrets with, the older children, but we have a 28-year-old,
Yes.
He has a passport. He comes, because we make sure he has a passport. He comes, with when we plan things, he'll come to meet us. But he has a son of his own. So to me, like, I raise my babies, they raise their babies.
Right.
So there's things that I would want for my grandkid, like, like bring him here. But I know realistically that he's going to come for a visit. Right. And, they won't live here, but they'll see that they can live here if they want to live here. So I think you still, no matter how old you are, you show them how to do it, no matter how old they are,
Exactly.
So my son, that he WhatsApps me, he videos me, because all those things that I expect. I'm like, if I call and it's 4 times, I've laid a guilt trip on, like, I could be, in somebody Portuguese basement, tied up or something, like, so you set those expectations, and then you keep in touch with them, and they, and it's just the same as when I was in Tennessee and he was in Illinois. It's
exactly
different.
Right. Exactly.
But do I wish that I had, taken him out of the United States so he can have the same opportunities as Drew has? Right. I do. I wish I knew those things. Like, I see, 20-year-olds. I was a young mother, but I see them doing it. And I said, man, if I knew at 20, because I know now, I'm still the same person. Mm-hmm. So I'm one of those people, I can't unknow it. If somebody had told me, or the light bulb had went out, then I would have, I had to take action. But we do it when we're supposed to do it. There's no sense looking at hindsight. Everything was supposed to happen.
It's 2020. Yeah. It's definitely 2020. And plus, working remotely was not a thing 26 years ago. It just wasn't, right? And so the internet has opened up a lot of opportunities that were not available before. Even investing, right? It's so much easier to invest now. You can start investing with $5. So there's no excuse, folks, to open up that account and get your IRA started and start investing. So Isan asks, he says, what other countries? They've already decided on Portugal for now. And they can just tell why Portugal, but let's hear about all of the countries that you went to for this past year while you guys were on this nomad existence. So you were in Mexico and, of course, Portugal, and we heard about the UK. Were there any others?
Greece and Spain.
And Spain.
Yeah. And last year was Costa Rica and Mexico.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, the year before last, I should say.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because it's been since COVID. Oh, the time is flying by. Yeah. So, and we loved, and I still love Valencia. I loved it. And if the visa process was a little bit easier, I probably would have went that route, I think. I don't know. I mean, it was a tie, but we stayed in most places a month or more.
Okay.
So we Airbnb'd, we cooked, but we also went out, we stayed walking distance to all the museums, all the different things, because it's just more practical.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get to know a place.
Yes.
And we enjoyed it, but I liked Valencia. I liked Valencia, and the boys liked Portugal was their number one. I think Portugal was my number 2 and Valencia was my number 1. Yeah. But it may have been the intimidation of the language. I think I thought, because I have a very close friend who's like a brother and he's fluent in Spanish. So I think I thought like I could get his help and he would come and I would, and he does classes. So, and then for Portuguese, I was like, now it already took me like forever to learn these, a few words, and now even every once in a while I surprise myself and say a Spanish sentence, So I'm like, because at first I just do like a bucket of words, no paragraphs. Yeah. So yeah, I think it was that, but it was Europe. I think we liked over Mexico because unfortunately with Drew, he can't have dairy. It makes him ill. So we do eat fish sometimes just because I'm like, we can have dairy, but he can't at all. And in Mexico, we were there for 2 months that last time. Yep.
Yeah.
And he just kept getting sick. And we were being so careful with the water. Our place was clean, landlord amazing. The area was nice. We kept going to the open markets, and he would pick all kind of things, but it just seems like something was upsetting his stomach. And we didn't know if that would work long term, if that was something that would go away. And then also, it wasn't just that, but that was like, mama bear kind of in the back of my head. If that would, I just didn't want him to be ill, because it really, he's down for some days, know. So, and then for Europe, it was also because there's so many other places that we want to visit also. So I think, there's so many states in Mexico too that we want to visit, but we thought, okay, Portugal was a place that we thought was, we found Portugal looking at the safety indexes.
Right.
Yeah. So I got all boys, it's just me. I'm outnumbered, guys, no girl. I wouldn't even try again, because it wouldn't even, I closed the shop because I knew I would just have another rate. It makes me worry. It makes me worry that, but now, Melvin and Drew, they go out, whether it's to walk this dog or whether it's to whatever, if they just are running to the store, and I don't have those same worries to where I feel like we're in a, all brick subdivision, 2,900 square feet, and it's a jail. You're in a fabulous jail. You got guest rooms, your family and friends can come to your jail, your nice, cozy jail. Because when you go out at any point in time, like we started to walk our neighborhood, at first we were like just in, because we lived in Tennessee for 4 years or 5 years.
So we lived in Tennessee for 8 years.
Oh man.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it seemed like it seemed so nice. And when Trump got elected,
everybody lost their mind.
People that were coming to my kids' birthday parties. You have been in my house, and I'm just the okay Black person for
exceptional.
You. Like, I'm the exceptional Black person. He's smart. He's on honor roll. He plays piano. He doesn't do a sport, so you're not, I didn't realize, I don't think I realized it until COVID, and Melvin went to the store and he put on a mask, and the older white gentleman just pointed and laughed. This man just getting his groceries, and to me, those are the things that it's like, my husband can't go to the grocery store. I'm not going to understand him getting pulled over, and they don't care. Executive what like that. It doesn't matter,
and it shouldn't have to matter. Like, you shouldn't have to say your credentials or have. I knew an actor friend back in the day when I lived in LA. And he was like a character actor, so most people wouldn't even know him. But he used to carry the DVDs that his face was on around with him for when he got pulled over.
Yeah.
How crazy
You
is
shouldn't
that?
have to do it. And so that was for me. So I just kept worrying. I'm like, we're not going out of the house. We started to drive to Dunbar Cave, which was like a hiking trail. And we would do the hiking trail that was through COVID. But on the times that we couldn't drive, like maybe we didn't want to take so much of a long lunch to drive there, do the hour, come back, we would walk the neighborhood. So we're just walking the neighborhood one day. And I'm like, Melvin, that's a Black flag. And I just couldn't. I said, I'm not
with the
Black flag.
All in black.
Everything's in black. The representation of the Civil War that say you will fight to death. That flag was hanging from one of my neighbors.
So
houses.
So it's all the same.
In Chicago.
No,
in
Tennessee.
In Tennessee.
So So in Tennessee, we lived in a community. It was all brick community, and it had a HOA, right? So the HOA says you can't display those flags and things on your property. So during the Trump years and the COVID years, these people, they would have the Trump flags, big Trump flag, you're not supposed to have according to the rules. And they put their Blue Lives Matter flag out, and they put their all black flag out, and the Don't Tread on Me thing. And it was really, I didn't feel intimidated. I felt pissed off, right? Because I'm like, these people, first of all, like you said, we all live in this community, right, together. I deserve to be here just as much as you deserve to be here, But your display is really saying that I don't deserve to be here unless I ascribe to your mentality and I support your guy,
Right. Unless I ascribe to white supremacy.
Yes.
Unless I always bow down to you.
Yeah.
I can be the exceptional magic Negro.
Yeah. And
but I will always be under you in your eyes and in our home country.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, Alicia. So you said the home country, right? So I was telling that I said, it's where I was born, it's where I was raised, and I can say I was dyed in the wool, right? So my dad was military, I was in the military. I went to the evangelical church in the South as a child. I did all the things, But as I got older and kind of became a relationship with being my own man, I don't feel like it's home, right? And I don't know if I found home yet, right? But I feel at peace when I'm here. So we came here and we could feel peace. Like she says, she wouldn't let me leave the house after a while. I couldn't go out walking by myself in my own neighborhood. She'd always come with me, or she'd send Drew with me, and she'd make sure we had to go when the sun was up. Because
it was a sundown state.
Right. It's very, very uneasy. Very uneasy.
Yeah, it just leaves you uncomfortable. And even Drew's friends, like he had a little best friend, Matthew. And Matthew was sweet, parents sweet and everything, nothing against them. I don't think they have a prejudice bone in their body, but they would play in the back with the Nerf guns. Like between our houses, we all had the privacy fence. So the guy Hunter, Matthew, and a couple other kids that I don't recall their name. And I would never let Drew go because I'm thinking like, if he comes from around somebody's thing with a Nerf gun, like I just did not think, and is that fair for Drew? It's like my parents are my best friends. Like I can't, but I could not. I said, Melvin, I could see Drew coming around. I'm like, I could visualize it. Well, someone stopping him.
And it doesn't matter that it's bright orange. Right.
Well, we've got examples of it. We've got real examples of this happening in the last 2 years. So
yes. And when we say these things, we get people in the comments who think we're crazy. They're like, that's just in the movies.
What about when we moved in? We moved in.
Yeah, so we moved in the
house. In our house like a week?
A week. We were in the house for a week, and the police come knocking on the door, right? So I'm on a meeting, I took some hold. I come around from the office. I opened the door and the police officer's in there, and he says, "Oh, is everything okay here?" And I said, "It is. Why wouldn't it be?" He said, "Well, a neighbor reported that the door was open in the back, and we saw some strange people going in and out of the back. Strange people, of course, is us. We live here. But the neighbor across the street from us that could see into our backyard called the police because they saw black people coming in and out of the house. And this is 2014, 15." 2015, yeah. 2015, yeah.
So Isan asks, how is Porto? Well, they don't live in Porto. They're just staying in Porto right now. They live in Lisbon district. But how is it different? How is Portugal different from Chicago? I think we've kind of answered that.
And I would say, I'm born and raised in Chicago, so that's my town. I feel like we just have amazing things to do, museums and, libraries, Harold Washington Library. We just have, you can go to any side of the town and there's culture. Chicago gets a bad rap. You would think we're ducking bullets every day, and that's not true. I don't know why they pick on Chicago, even though, yes, there's shootings there because just like every other state, we allow
because Obama came from there. That's
we allow citizens to have guns and things. So Chicago it's a great city, but my angst is not with any one city in the United States.
Mhm.
It is with the United States.
States.
Right. Right.
Like I feel like I've lived in multiple. I've lived in Ohio. I've lived in Tennessee. I've lived in Illinois. I just feel that they're all kind of the same. You're
Yeah.
segregated. You have amazing politicians. They're fighting the good fight, but they die fighting the good fight. And it's just at some point, you just don't want to fight anymore. And with my kids young, I don't want to. I want to be able to enjoy my kids, my marriage, my grandkid. Like I don't think it's a good trade-off for me to continuously fight for I don't even know what we're fighting for anymore because they can't, quantify it.
Right.
Everything's been distorted.
Mhm.
We all know, what is it? Upwards of trillions of dollars that would be owed to Black people from slavery. It's just a full hot garbage mess, and
Yes.
someone is gonna fix it. It's just not going to be us. It's not like
And it's-
I know
no.
it's not going to be
And
me.
it's not going to be soon either.
Yeah.
Reach out, Rhonda. Rhonda also wants to know where you got your braids done because she's heading up to Porto. So if you've got that information, if you want to send it to me or put it in the private chat, I can put it. It in the chat.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
right, I used to say because y'all know I did politics. There it is. I did politics when before I left the United States. And one of the last meetings that I had to attend was with our newest US Senator. And I got up and I said, I'm so tired of having the same conversations that I was listening to as a child when my parents were fighting this fight from the 60s.
Yep.
And the 70s. And I'm sitting there with my coloring books listening to them, and they're saying the same stuff that we are saying right now 40, 50 years later. And it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? And he was on the blue team. So they don't have any idea what to do. And I know what we're fighting for. We're fighting for equity and recognition. And I think that nothing is going to happen until we have some form of a truth and reconciliation. Like folks need to own up to the SHIT. They need to own up to it and admit to it. But what they are doing right now, what are they doing? They're doing just the opposite. They're taking slavery out of the books and they're trying to erase us, erase our contributions, erase our struggle,
you don't want to repent from the original sin. And it's like,
exactly.
You can't, other countries, nobody's proud of it. Slavery wasn't just in the United States, even though
we did it the best,
but it's like there are other countries that you can go, you can hear about, not pleasant things. You can see these things in museums. Even when I was in Mexico, the Black Mexicans, like learning about that in the museum, like it's in the museum. You can read about it. You can read about the way they were treated. And we just want to pretend like nothing
never happened.
And it is I think it's going to be to our detriment. I do not think that people understand that democracies fall in a day.
They don't. Because checks
when
and
you've
balances,
been born into one, you just think this is the way it always is. But others on the outside looking in, they're like, "U.S., you're treading on thin ice." Like they're it just. I don't know. I hope for the best, but I am afraid that it'll get worse before it gets better.
Because right now it's a 50-50, right? I think the last two elections, I can show you it's a 50-50,
It is.
It could go either way with it.
Go either way. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, so one of the reasons why they can't live up to it, right, is because we have a capitalistic system. So our capitalistic system says somebody has to be on top, somebody has to be on bottom, right?
Right.
In order for you to succeed, you have to exploit the people on the bottom. And they made us at the bottom from the beginning, and they want to keep us there because it's easy to have somebody at the bottom, And I see like now, but they're putting like Hispanics coming across the border, southern border, they're creating this narrative to where that puts them at or near the bottom, right?
That's
And
right.
so they can afford to erase us from the history books because now they have a new bottom layer they can
Yep.
apply, and they have a new bottom people they can exploit. And it really is it's a horrible thing, right? Because it's right, we kind of like we broke out of the cycle, right, with our finances by stopping the consumerism. I see the comments say Dr. Consumer. We stopped our consumerism a long time ago, but then we kind of crystallized it with the way that we saved and invested, and also the things that we did, which afforded us the ability to push that timeline up further and to travel and see the world more and to be there for each other more and to be there for our son more. It really is
It's a freedom.
It's a freedom,
I think it's a freedom that you give yourself because you don't owe anyone.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't owe anyone. You feel like you can say tomorrow that Portugal doesn't work for you, but you
Right.
don't owe anyone. So you
Right.
can, all you have to do is serve out your lease or, give the proper notice, make sure you do things the way you want them done to you, and you can move on to wherever you would like to move on or to the next place that you think you might be interested in. And I think in the US, often you're on this hamster wheel of lack of education for some pieces, because there are some things we learn, like we used to keep money in the bank, and then we had to learn about it, like upping this and investing this, or you owe on your taxes. And this is if you just increase these things more about, in your 401ks and things like that, now you don't owe anymore. There were things that our parents didn't know to tell us,
Right.
so you think you got this little money in the bank and you can help out your friends or your family. Somebody needs some paid, you can, but that money should be being used in a different way.
Yes.
And then when we started to like button up those things, we realized it really did it just gives you a sense of like clarity. If your mind isn't all jumbled up, you're not figuring out how you're gonna, pay for the thing to pay for the next thing. I
Right.
think money isn't used or looked at as a tool anymore. Before it was a tool, remember we had come from prideful people. They didn't have baby showers and all that because that was charity. The government giving out money, they don't want it. That's charity. That's been flipped on its head. But there were my grandfather and grandmother, their generation, they prided themselves in, saving and just not owing anyone. That for whatever, if you had to wear hand-me-downs or, your sister's clothing or whatever, they really didn't want to be in debt. And now we have this thing. I told one of my girlfriends, I said, I feel like it's a race in the United States to see who can spend the most. Sometimes
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. In the last comment we had up there about consumerism, but consumerism coupled with, extreme capitalism, where we are not human beings, we are additives to the GDP, right? And that's all we are. And when they I keep saying when they got rid of the personnel department and made that department the human resources department, you knew exactly what time it was, right?
Yep.
Exactly what time it was.
Line item on a spreadsheet. That's it. I mean, that my
Seriously.
girlfriend was saying if there's someone that passed away on the job, and she said it wasn't 2 days. They had that lady's stuff packed up, that stuff clean, somebody else sitting in that chair.
Right.
Line item on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And these jobs are not loyal. And I think, between Black excellence and respectability politics, right? That notion that if we have the job, if we have the education, if we dress a certain way, then finally they will leave us alone and let us, but it's never going to happen.
No.
It is never going to happen. Not in my lifetime.
No.
So that financial freedom what that Rick and I found that Tadassi and Melvin have, there is a way to crack that code, y'all. And so down below, you see the waiting list for our group coaching Beyond the Bling, the Money Mindset Makeover. It's going to go on pre-sale this week. Yes, this is Sunday, this week. And it comes with group coaching as well as some other bonuses and everything like that. So you want to buy in the pre-sale and not afterwards. Otherwise, you will lose that opportunity. So Greta asked, is it other Americans that are acting like fools or bad Americans, or is it Black Americans? I think it's other folks, but
Yeah.
I think other folks bring their privilege over here and act the fool. But
Uh-huh.
I'm going to let our guest answer.
Well, so I think that it's any American who has the colonized mindset. I think it's easy for other folks to have colonized mindset because they have the privilege. But I think that some of us, the Black Americans also have a colonized mindset, and we want to flout our privilege as well. And I think that when you I think you have to have that level of freedom to not be in there. So I don't think it's like the people who are maybe listening to the channel, would do that, because I think you're preaching to the choir, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that there are other people out there who I know would come over and they'd have that same mentality as the oppressors.
The U.S. is the best place for them.
Yeah.
Like you're like these, like this is your place until you, because if you want the world to be a better place, you got to be a better person. What Michael Jackson say? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Like you can't, it's no way around it, and that's, parenting and marriage and all, we get caught up in all these things. And we feel like everything is being done to us. Like we don't have a say, we have no contribution. And we're just, even on here now, we're discussing, like, what can we do? So because we're trying to be a part of the solution. We know, we can have a chip on our shoulder. Like Rick said, I told Melvin, I was like, I think sometimes I'm just going to have to go in the middle, because people sometimes don't move. When we're walking and the sidewalk is narrow, but I haven't actually went in the middle, because I know that's probably not the best way. And they do scoot over a little bit, but they are used to, and I'm using they broadly. I'm sure it's not everyone, but people will stop in the middle of the street sometimes, and it's different for us. People usually not just standing in the sidewalk, not moving out of the way,
because very few people walk in the United States. Everybody's in their car unless they are walking for a purpose, walking the dog, doing exercise. They're not. They don't use it as a mode of transportation. Right. And then, we know the person at the fruitaria, he knows who we are. The person at the Nepalese restaurant, they know who we are. The checkers at the little grocery store, they know us. Right. And so even the place where, I got my facial and stuff, when we pass by, they're like, oh, hey, hi, hola, they know who we are. So I think some of it is that.
I felt so proud when Melvin came home with that continent card. He's like, the lady offered me a continent card because we had been in there, the one nearest to our new flat. We had been in there a couple of times, and I guess she was like, do you have a card for the I don't know, discount.
The frequent flyer card, basically.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, honey, you're making friends.
We don't even have a continent card, so we gotta. So Rick said they gave us the little.
Somebody handed us the application. I think. It might not have been an application.
The card is with the application. You just register it online.
You go online and register.
So we go into our Continent Bon Dia and get one.
It might be in there in the drawer.
Okay. So Christopher, we have interviewed retired people talking about what do they do all day if they're not working.
Whatever they want to.
Whatever the heck we want to do, Chris, let me tell you. So we did do
You're
a
free
video,
to do it.
Right? Was that video just last week, or was it the week before last that we did on the scary thing about retiring?
I think it was the week before last.
Okay. So we did that a couple of weeks ago. And then back in June or July, Chris, we interviewed Jerry and Alex, who have been here retired. They retired early in their early 50s, and they've been here for 4 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, doing what now? Well, they're not doing whatever the heck they want to now, because they signed up for the government language
lessons.
class.
Mhm.
Those are intense.
And they have a Monday. Why are you shaking? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. His legs started bouncing.
It makes me nervous just to think about having to
Just
do
think,
that.
I know,
Wow.
but we can do it. We can do it, Rick. We got
I believe you. I believe
I personally can't wait. The notion of having to be someplace Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 6 months, I'm not looking forward to that, because being in control of our own calendar, our own schedule is lovely.
But when you're walking through those streets and you understand what people are saying, you are going to be excited. Like, oh my God, I recognize that, because right now it's just fast language.
Yeah.
So we are taking private lessons. We have this young lady who's from Angola, and we have one-on-one lessons. I have one, and he has one every week, and then we're supposed to be practicing in between. So I'm already starting to pick up stuff, because it is a lot like Spanish, and I've been almost 3 years taking private Spanish tutoring, and so now it's just listening for the words and how they're pronounced differently, and I'm starting to grab it. And so it's funny, because we were in the tool store, hardware store, about a month ago, and the guy was trying to explain to me, he didn't speak any English, but he was explaining to me the difference between the two different products that and he just assumed I was speaking Portuguese because I was answering him. So he was explaining in Portuguese the difference between the two products. And then here comes Rick coming from the pharmacy. And he said something about the payment that I didn't understand, and I gave myself away. And he said, "Oh, is it easier in English?" And Rick's like, yeah, easier in English. And I'm like, no.
Like that.
Yeah, he did. He was all
Because you were
excited.
getting it. You were getting it.
It makes life a little, but I knew he was saying something about how do you want to pay for it or whatever.
Yeah, something about was wrong with the machine, actually.
I hear Americana and English. Like when I was getting my hair done and the girl was talking, I'm just smiling, the one that came in, and then she finally asked, was I from, was I African or something? And the lady was like, nope. And she was like, Americana? And she got excited because remember, she wanted to go to New York. And then she was like, English. And then she just switched. All English, crystal clear. Because you're 18, you're a sponge. You can get, she all the language, every language she spoke was like she had been speaking it for all her life.
But I took 7 years of French. 7 years.
And Melvin has a great voice.
And
yes,
he
does.
So yeah, they want to know if you do voiceovers, or do you sing, Mel?
I don't sing. My father sings. My father's a great tenor. He sang for 60-something years. And then my brothers, they all sing and play music. I have no musical talent whatsoever. And I've thought about doing voiceovers, but never gotten into it. And we talk about that all the time, though. We begin the voiceovers.
Yeah, my mom used to do voiceovers for a while there, making some extra cash in LA. And then she stopped. I don't know. Oh, no. What happened was the pandemic hit. And that's what happened. I'm looking for questions here in the chat.
Loved it.
Loved it.
That's an easy question.
Yeah. Well, so we were in Valencia. We started.
It was a heat wave.
It was a heat wave. We started off at the beach, right? You cannot beat the Mediterranean beach in the shoulder season, and when there's hardly nobody there, that you get the beach to yourself. It's fabulous. Then we go to Valencia, and we're right by the park. So you're able to walk up and down the park from one side of town to the other side of town, the old town, back down to the beach area. It's beautiful. It's lovely. And Tadassi will tell you that I had every pastry shop in Valencia. Me and Drew probably hit every one of those.
He can't be trusted to go to pick up something from the store. He cannot. And Drew can't tell a lie.
Yeah.
if you don't tell him,
Yeah.
he will not say anything. I know people say, don't tell your mom we stopped at this cafe. So like 4 hours later, Drew will say, Mom,
We stopped at
Dad
cafe.
and I stopped at this cafe. And I didn't keep it
Why has he
from
got
you."
to volunteer the information?
He's like,
He's
I didn't
true.
want to keep it from you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because, but if he had just went to the cafe and not made it like it was a secret, then he would have felt fine, but he felt guilty. So
Yeah.
I said, that's okay. I know
Yeah.
they don't go to the store without a stop off for something. And I'm used
Oh
to it
my
now.
gosh.
And it is affordable,
It is.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
and that's the
that
thing,
they're allowed
right?
to have.
I mean, the cafe across the street from us, you can get a latte and a fresh pastry for under €3.
Mm-hmm.
I think the latte's like €1 or €1.10, and then the pastry's like 95
Mm-hmm.
euro cents, you know. So how did you like Spain? Loved it. Where did you go in Spain?
So
Valencia and
Puebla.
Pablo de
Yeah.
Farnels.
Mhm.
Okay. And then Sandra asks, did you see a lot of people of color in Valencia?
Yes, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
We are absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I get that question from my family. You know, were there other Black people there? Right? And the answer is always yes. We are absolutely everywhere in this world as Black people. If I went to Russia, I'm sure I would bump into
Oh
Black
yeah, there's tons of Black
Yeah.
people in Russia
Now,
because
the
that was one
only
of the
thing
places
that
where
I
we
did
left and went
that
to.
I didn't see, and again, it was a heat wave. So some of those days I was like, I was out at night instead of during the day. I didn't see a lot of Black-owned businesses in Valencia.
That's what I was going to ask.
And I didn't have any business there. I mean, I got my nails done. That was it, right?
That was it. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I wasn't looking, but I'm always kind of looking in the neighborhoods. And I did see Black people, but like the guys by the park, they were more like selling stuff. And I saw us, and I hate to say that there aren't, because we only were there for 2 months, but I didn't see a lot.
Well, and that's the thing that we noticed when we were in Spain. Yes, we are there. We were everywhere that we've been to, except for I don't remember us too much in Greece.
We were there.
We were there.
So maybe not in the touristy areas that we were at. Because when we were in Greece, it was all about tourism and doing the touristy things.
Santorini.
But what I noticed, and I noticed in Spain in general, was that it seemed like mostly African immigrants, and they were on the outskirts of the economy.
Okay.
You know, not integrated into the economy like I feel like more folks are here. I know there's Portuguese people who are from the diaspora but have been here for centuries. So I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the Angolans and Mozambique and maybe Cabo Verde. They seem to be a bit more integrated into the regular economy as opposed to the gig economy.
Yeah.
It looks very much like side hustles in Spain. So were there any, besides Black, did you see like Asians, Persians, and folks like that? Do you remember?
I don't think so, especially around the tourist areas.
Around the tourist areas, like we were in Sagunta. In Sagunta, there was
In Sagunta, we noticed a lot of Black people. I think that was Africans mostly, but again, not business owners, just walking around. But it was a beautiful city, and we noticed a lot of Black people. We were like, okay, this is nice. Just to see some of us, but I didn't notice any shops. Now, they're getting it done. I saw some hair braided and some of that. So, they braiding each other's hair or somebody's doing something, because definitely, I saw natural styles and all kind of things. So, but I don't recall. That was the one thing I was saying about Valencia and just some of the other towns that we visited, that I didn't see any Black shops. And it might have stood out because they stand out to me in Portugal in areas like hair salons and just other stores. If you pass some spices or what have you, it seems like there's like if you want to open a store, you can open up a store. But I don't I don't know. I don't recall. I don't recall seeing.
But the Chinese, I think, are everywhere. So one thing I saw Tadassi, we're in Pueblo de Fresnos. It's being in shoulder season, and the store, the guy says,
it's the end.
It was the end. Yeah. And the guy says, if you want to get a towel to go to the beach, go to the bazaar down the street, right? So I go to the bazaar down the street, and of course, who owns the bazaar down the street? But the Chinese, right?
Yeah.
So the Chinese. Yeah.
We were in one a couple hours ago.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. And they don't speak. They didn't speak a lot of Spanish either. They spoke Mandarin. And they had a lot. They took money in Spanish. They could speak the money in Spanish.
Right?
And they did their products in Spanish, but they didn't know Spanish. So it was really. But I see Chinese everywhere. But it kind of goes back to if we can take our ingenuity, and if we get rid of our fear, why don't we go and start business elsewhere? Because I'm sure it wasn't easy for the Chinese person to start a business in Spain either.
Or here in Portugal.
Yeah.
He didn't know any English, did not know any Spanish. And I guess the couple of Portuguese words that I was saying to him, because he was asking what I was looking for. And I was like, I'm looking for my esposo, because I could not remember. The lady told me, yes, that is Portuguese for husband, but it's old fashioned. You have to, and she said the other word that starts with an M, and I couldn't remember that. So I said what I knew. I said what I knew. Will Drew go to school in Portugal, and have you researched between private versus public?
So Drew will finish out the school year under his current program, but our intent is for him to go to school in Portugal. Maybe a hybrid approach. We're not really sure. We've been talking to different parents. We want to visit some schools there. We're in Oriash, and there's some of the top schools are in that area, even public. Cool. I like that some of the parents was like, they have English classes. Some of them have classes in English, so don't count it out because the education is really good. And it is one of the things that I didn't like about the United States, that I felt like in some areas I couldn't utilize the public school system. So if it is something that we can utilize, we will. We are determined to learn Portuguese. So I'm not necessarily interested in international. I don't like the price point. And I think it's more if you are moving from place to place, maybe diplomats, different. I mean, I'm sure there are also local people too, but I would like there to be a focus so he can actually get to know some people, can practice, even if they speak English too, they can practice with him with his Portuguese. So ultimately it's wherever Drew feels comfortable. That's where he's going to be. That's how we felt about the United States. Like we kind of knew that we would likely take him out of middle school because the horrors of the United States middle school is not necessary in our opinion. It's just not something we feel like our kid has to go through, that stage where kids are just bullying and just
horrendous,
just horrible. Even the teachers, the poor teachers don't know what to do.
Interesting because that was, yeah, Black in Portugal's in the house. Hey,
Hey,
Heather.
Heather.
And I remember that was like one of the most traumatic experiences for my son. Just traumatic.
Yeah, it's
And
hard.
but I didn't know that there was a choice, like
Yeah,
besides
yeah,
homeschooling, which I did do for a little bit. So
for a
on a
little
lighter
bit.
note, has anyone thought about importing stepping and stepping sets to Lisbon?
We're trying to bring everything, huh?
Right, right.
So stepping like fraternity stepping, if the
No, like
sorority stepping, or
Probably if they're talking about
aerobics.
Chicago, probably
Okay.
stepping or
yeah.
Kelly type of stepping. But um, shoot, look, music is international. All we need is a radio. We need our phones and our speakers, and we can step. So
Yeah.
So Elise, you heard, their son was their son's constitution was not agreeing with Mexico, or at least Guadalajara. And so if you're considering Puerto Vallarta, definitely it's a beautiful place. There's a thriving Black expat community there in Puerto
Yeah.
Vallarta to soften the landing. As you know, I don't know how well you know Spanish, but I think it's the choice, is really, really, really individual. And you have to think about how you envision your life and what you want to do. And so for Rick and I, we have permanent residency in Mexico. We love Mexico.
yep.
But right now we want to travel this side of the world.
Mhm.
And Portugal offers citizenship within 5 years, or at the 5 year mark. And so having a second passport so easily, from a country that we do feel at home, we blend. If we spoke Portuguese,
Make life
more,
even
it
better.
would,
Right, but it's just be a
right?
different day in the life. Yeah.
It really would. And unfortunately, too many people know English here, and it makes you a little bit lazy, but not that lazy.
Yeah.
So I think it's really an individual choice.
It is. And
One
for
of the
us, keep in mind we have a 13-year-old. So when we're thinking university, it'll be, he'll probably pick somewhere either Europe, UK, US, it probably wouldn't be Mexico. But, we don't know. But for us, we plan to do a lot of travel. We enjoyed nomading. We almost felt, but we didn't like some of the restrictions. So we want to go to Southeast Asia and we want to stay a little bit. But I recently retired. Melvin's still working. He wants to do that for a year or two. So it helps to be in the middle, closer to some of the places that we want to go to, because he doesn't want to work from those places. So he can just, take one of these luxury Augusts off, or some of the work. He's working for the European side of his company now, so it's just totally different to be working the same time zone, and being able to utilize some of the benefits that we just don't have as far as work-life balance. So yeah, I think for us too, it's if we love it, we can get that passport. If we think that's worth it. It's the safety, it's the affordable food, fresh food. Europe just has some of the things, like we use Too Good To Go. I don't know if anyone has heard of it, but it's an app. It's called Too Good To Go. And we use that, and what it is it's to reduce food waste. So you go on the app, they'll show you meals. So it's supposedly in some areas, like, of course it works well in California. It's in New York and Chicago and stuff, but I haven't had any success in those places. In Mexico, I didn't have any success, but in Europe, I could put vegetarian in there, and they show me different meals that I can either order for the next day or I can order for the day. So like you guys were saying, for the bakery. So if I do Too Good To Go and I do like bakery, when I go pick it up from the bakery, it is enough bread for the week for €3. €4. Like it's basically I love the idea of it is so that first of all,
Interesting.
I think about the students and people traveling and things like that. But we
Right.
found it while we were nomading that just in different places, it worked really good in Spain. It worked really
Okay.
good in Portugal. So yesterday I had some amazing sushi under €10 because I just went on the app. I'm like,
What's the name of it?
Too
it's
good to go.
go. So, and I think by my new neighborhood, they have places. So basically, the business signs up for it, and they just make sure that they try to eliminate food waste. And Europe is really big into becoming green. I know Valencia
Yes.
wants to do it by 2030,
Yeah, I think
and
so.
Portugal, I think by 2040 something. So they take the recycling seriously. They take the food waste seriously. So there's so many just options here, like little things like that, but then other things that I just enjoy. I like it. I like that some of the museums all the museums were free for Drew when he was 12.
Yes.
I mean, I think he's aged out. He's 13 now, but can you imagine like the world being someplace in the world where the world sees your baby like a baby?
Yes. I
felt like the world saw my baby like a grown man.
Of course. Well, Black babies as grown men. If they still they give students a free Metro card here in Lisbon.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, most of the museums were still free.
Yeah.
And it might vary from district to district. Okay, I just have to put this up because I just don't know. We're about to go to the UK where they're striking every other day, so this will be interesting. Okay, I'm looking for other questions here.
Oh, I'm Karen.
Yeah, Karen, I'm glad you caught us this time. Sometimes she has to watch the replay. We are gonna wrap it up because we are at an hour 45 minutes, y'all, and I think I have gotten through all of my questions here. Did you get through? Because I saw you writing some stuff. Where's Drew at?
Oh, he's right there somewhere. We'll get him.
Sure.
Okay, we'll get him. All right, be right back.
Tell him we're ready for his close-up.
And Antonio, Portuguese kids learn 3 languages in school. Portuguese, of course, English, and then a third one, which can be French, Spanish, German, or even Mandarin.
Wow.
So when we were in South Africa, I did make sure that our son came with us for the month that we were there. And Chinese folks, speaking of Mandarin, and of course they were selling
Knockoffs.
knockoff. They were selling knockoff purses. Hey, Drew.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Drew.
So I'm just going to finish this story right quick. So my son, our son was with us, and we saw some Chinese folks. They were selling knockoff purses out of the back of a container, like the shipping containers. In Africa, they do a lot of stuff with those shipping containers.
Okay.
And our son said, "Oh my gosh, Africanese." And that stuck with me. Tons of Chinese folks in South Africa. Tons of Chinese folks.
They're everywhere.
So Drew, tell us how you are liking Portugal, and do you want to go to public school next year here?
So I do like Portugal. I like the laid back lifestyle. I was always a very laid back child. They'll tell you I like that the
Real simple things.
simple things. I like the cafe culture and just being able to like slow down, take a breather. I do think I will want to go to maybe not a public school. My parents were thinking about enrolling me in a private school in Cascais.
Not Cascais. Orish?
Orish. But I don't know if I want to go to a public school, but public and private would be pretty nice. I just have to learn the language. So,
yeah.
Well, you are
if they have the English classrooms. That would be a good option, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a little bit, anxious about knowing if he'll be able to communicate at all. So we don't intend to put him in a school where he can't communicate with the teachers and they can't.
I'm going to be very okay. So we're going to have you back on because I'm going to be very interested 9 months, 10 months from now, how much you know, Drew. And I should give you guys the information for our tutor because she's very affordable. She charges us $10 per hour.
Okay.
For private lessons. So
And you can argue with her. I argue with her all the time over the sound of something and the spelling of it. It's like, but it's not spelled.
Well, it does not sound how it's spelled.
No.
Yeah, it's not spelled that way. So
yeah.
So this one's a little off topic. Has anyone living in Portugal experienced mold in the winter? Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think you can, depending on the humidity inside the homes, but there's a lot of cheat sheets, dehumidifier. Some people have crosswind, open the windows, which I think the weather is pretty nice to open the windows anyway to air out the buildings.
Right.
But yeah, I think it can build up no matter I guess some very, very modern places may, but even relatively, I think our building was built in 88 or 89, and it seems very well constructed. But I'm going to tell you guys this, but I hate saying it. Our lease started in November, and we got here in January, so that was not my intention. I hate paying rent.
Ours started in August,
Don't feel bad.
and we didn't get here until almost October.
So I thought we would get here in December. I really thought that we had lucked up just 1 month, but it didn't work out like that. So we're here when we're supposed to be.
When did we talk on the phone? When did we talk on the phone that time?
That was
Was that November?
We were here already. That's for sure.
Yeah, we were here.
So October, November, when we had a call with you, when we gave you Rossini's information.
Oh.
No. Because I got Rossini's information from
Watching them.
I had to find it on your channel.
I thought we talked to you.
We did reach out to try to get Rossini's information, but I just thought with the moving and stuff, and traveling around, we had missed you guys, but we got Rossini's information either before he was on.
It was definitely before he did the video. So you guys were
not the last video, but he was like in a just like a chat, just
a roundup.
And I think did we get his information then or before? Yes.
Okay, so that was way back in August. So for those of you who don't know, Rossini is the one that they worked with and I worked with to find our apartments. And so
pavement for us.
It's invaluable. So Danette, if you leave the windows open, that helps. There are sprays here that don't seem to exist in the United States because literally we spray. I catch it. I see the little dots. I spray, and before I can even go back to get a rag or anything, it's gone.
Yeah,
it's gone. So you just kind of have to stay on top of it.
Stay vigilant with it.
I know that our realtor had our place airing out when we got here. And I think it was because the tenants had moved in October. We didn't get here until January. I didn't see any mold, but it seems like they paint everything, clean everything down and everything between tenants. So it was well kept, but could there have been mold and he covered it? So that's one of the things that I want to see when we go back. Because when we go back now, we've been gone for some weeks. So no one has opened a window or a door or anything, and we'll see how it
look
works.
around the window.
Like you said, you just kind of stay on it and try to keep it at bay.
I don't think hurricanes come into the Mediterranean Sea, do they?
It's like it's not in the zone. It's like, how you see Florida and Puerto Rico and the Bahamas are always getting hit with hurricanes. It's because they're in the zone where hurricanes form because of the wind and the heat and the water.
Yeah, it is.
Any
It
other
is
questions you got like that? Drew's gonna jump in.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't even
yeah.
know that.
Europe, the reason why Europe doesn't get hit with as many hurricanes is because it's in the zone. The water is a little bit colder,
Colder.
and there's
Yeah.
not as much intense winds. So
Yeah.
hurricanes don't form close to the shore.
Yeah.
You heard it from Drew.
Yeah. Our son used to be the same
Same way.
way. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So yeah,
I
it's
know, I'm telling you, if we don't know something, we're like,
Astro-
Drew.
it's kind of a perfect confluence down in the southern part of the United States and Mexico and that whole area with the
Mhm.
cold, the heat at the same time and the winds. So yeah, I hadn't heard of that either. And then, so we'll just talk about this for a quick second. I apologize, but my US mentality needs to ask, is it safe to walk around in the evening? And what is crime like here in Portugal?
So, well,
I wouldn't walk around in the evening on the west side of Chicago. Now,
yes.
I'm not saying you're going to get shot, but you may get, I mean, you got to look like you know where you're going, at least. There are
Yeah.
some neighborhoods, and I don't know if this is true for any big city, but there are some neighborhoods that are in Province. They're sketchy, so you could be a crime of opportunity. And there's other neighborhoods that, sure, it's safe to walk around at night and it's no big deal. So it would depend. I tell my country husband when we're in Chicago, like, you know how you slow down, like if you don't know where you're going? I don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, no.
Make a block. You can. I don't care if the address, if we pass it by 2 blocks or a mile. It's just the mentality of growing up in the city. I don't slow down and look at, I don't want anybody to think I'm sneaking up on them, or it's in my head, so, but he didn't grow up that way. So to me, you look like you know where you're going all the time.
At all times. I'm from LA, same thing.
Yeah, at
But
all times.
here in Portugal, I walk to the grocery store if I forget something, I will walk to the grocery store at night by myself, and
Yes.
I never even think twice. I go to the grocery store. I drive to the grocery store in Denver at night, but there's no way on God's green earth I would walk. No way.
Yeah.
And Rick wouldn't even walk. So Portugal
It's
is
a car culture too.
It
It's not
is.
like you're not walking a lot of places
No.
anyway that are affordable to live.
Mm-hmm.
Portugal is depending upon which list you look at, it's 4th or 6th as far as safety in the world. The world, the United States is way down there.
There's not a gun culture here, so everybody doesn't have a gun.
No, people don't have a gun. It's hard to get a gun. It's would you be concerned if your child had special needs? Great black families. No.
I think I saw. Didn't we see a family that was saying
did,
how
yeah.
they really? I forgot where I saw it. If it was YouTube or just an article I was reading, but their child had special needs in Portugal, and they really, they liked the assistance. They liked the help they were getting. So yeah.
I think that there's just more of an emphasis here, and this may sound strange to the Portuguese folks that we have in the audience, to humanness. Because even I use this example because I never saw this in the United States. Now, maybe it exists and folks from other places can let me know, but in the Alameda station, metro station, there's this beautiful little nursing room for women who need to nurse their babies.
It's an Almada station.
Yeah. And it's got a mural on the wall. I heard soft music playing the one time the door was open. It was crystal clean, even though it was in a public space, And just that little thing alone tells you a lot about a society and about a culture. And I don't think that would be the developer would say that's money going down the drain if this were in the United States. Right?
Yeah. That's because it's all about individualism. And that's what causes the separation amongst family, because if everything is just about the individual, then it's easy to disconnect from even, family.
Yeah.
So yeah, it isn't like that here. It's at least, so I'll say this, and Melvin and I were talking about this the other day. For the length of time that I've been in Portugal, and even for the length of time, even the time period that I'll be here to, get a citizenship, it's not enough time for me to judge anything here. It's just simply not. I was born and raised in the U.S. I've lived in multiple cities, worked multiple jobs, lived in multiple neighborhoods. So to me, I think it's fair that I get a say. But I don't think that everything would be the way that that's going to make me comfortable, and I'll like everything. But I just don't think that I'm the person to come in and say anything about Portugal. I don't think it's my place.
Yeah, well, definitely not as far as
president.
especially they need to be doing this, and they no. There are some antiquated systems here, but we knew that when we came. We knew that coming in, that there were some bureaucratic systems that is like, really? They still doing it that way?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if your thing, if those are the kind of things that would drive you up the wall, don't come here.
We did it
don't come here, right?
And you have to also think about efficiencies eliminate jobs for people. And often, like, we're not drilling down to the why. Sometimes it is. It's just an outdated system, and it could be better. But often the things, first of all, the way the systems is, make the place and make it more affordable and appealing to you. If they had some of those other things, it may not be affordable and appealing to you. It may just be like any other type of place.
Yeah.
So that you have that, but then you also have, not every country is trying to modernize in the way that they, leave their population without jobs.
Exactly. And I was thinking about that too as I was saying it. I think you have to write your pro and con list and talk about what is most important to you. And for Rick and I, it was most important that we felt comfortable in the space, public space and private space. And that the quality of life was still good. So, and that we blend. So, I will put up with some inconveniences, and it's easy to do that because I ain't working no 9 to 5 and have to be, I only got, 30 minutes for my lunch. Come on, let's get it done. And that's probably why things are more efficient in the United States, because they know, nobody has any time for anything when you're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. So, single women, BP, she said, Tadassi and Mel, especially T, have you seen issues for single women moving around in your travels? And
I mean, I haven't. And I even see people on their phones with, getting directions, and they'll go to wherever they're going, and they're no place, even when we were in Mexico, which gets a bad rap for, and I'm not saying that there's no crime, and that sometimes you may have, the police has never not asked anyone for money, but it hasn't been my experience. And we've had to ask for directions. We had cops like, these people did something, it doesn't have anything to do with you, they just wanted to make sure, like, we knew, like, they came out of their way to say good morning or good afternoon, so that we wouldn't feel like afraid of their presence. So when we were in Guadalajara, our Airbnb host, didn't he say don't really go out at night?
He did, yeah.
Well, he was like, don't really go out. And we were walking distance to Central.
Yes.
And Melvin and Drew went out all the time, went to the park. The park near our Airbnb had families. That families was there. And I love this about Mexico, and I love this about Portugal also.
Yes.
In places like the family on Sunday, Like the family came,
Everybody's out.
they're out, they're
Yeah.
doing stuff with and this is, I mean, generational. The grandparents and the
Yes.
children, and the children have friends, but they don't feel the need to not, to be mean to their parents because they have friends or because they want to go over here with this friend. It's like
Right.
everybody, they know each other's parents. They're respectful to each other's parents. The kids may go and over to talk on the stairs or something, and the parents are sitting, and it's a whole little socializing. So I just want that. And I think that it's hard to get it in the U.S. It's hard. It's such a individualist. Even sometimes when you meet families, you'll get little hints that it's a competition. And and that's not what you just want. The families to mingle. You just want the kids to mingle and get along and have a person if they, but when it's just that hint, I can't really describe it, but it's always there. And in our travels, we didn't notice that other places. In Spain, we saw like kids at the bar. Like those kids were
right.
They weren't in the bar. They were just, the parents were socializing and they were playing and everything. And it was like, well, we're out here, it's happy hour. But you also saw social drinking. Whereas
not drinking to get drunk.
Exactly. Not drinking
to get You're not supposed to know that, Drew. You're not supposed to know that part. So DY, thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate it. As y'all know, our super chat goes to
our scholarship
fund. Yeah. So anyone who's signing up who wants to sign up for our next challenge or for the Beyond the Bling Money Mindset Makeover, let us know if you need a scholarship because we do have a few available. And so we're going to end with this. BP, no, our clothes don't smell like mildew. So no, you just have to keep the windows open. It just cracked. And Danette asked about digital nomads. And then lastly, males making friends.
Yes. So I think it's easier outside of the U.S. And I think it's because you were talking about the competition. So most guys I talk to in the U.S., it's always like a big competition. It's a measuring. Who's cooler, who's taller, who's whatever. And I've had conversations with other Black males from the United States, from other countries, and the conversations have been more earnest, open, and free. Outside the U.S. than they ever were inside the U.S. Even with locals. So me and Drew we're in Guadalajara. One night we go down to the bar area to get some food, right? So me and Drew sat at the bar. He had his soda pop. I had a beer with the guys, and we sat there and talked for about 45 minutes, just having a great conversation. The guys will come back the next day, and I feel that people are more welcoming and opening to having conversation with you that's earnest and honest and really forthcoming, and there's not a lot of BS wrapped up in it.
Exactly. That keeping up with the Joneses nonsense. So Danette, we are going to have a digital nomad on as our guest next week. So you'll definitely have to tune in for that. Mel and Tadassi are not digital nomads because Mel works for I guess digital nomads. Yeah, I guess they were digital nomads to a certain extent last year. I guess you can say that.
Yeah, you can say that. We worked. What I will say is one thing that we found is like there's like levels and no story is going to be the same. Ours won't be the same as Rick and Halisi. But what I will tell people is if you're thinking about doing something, if you think you want to travel and you have a job, ask. I think we don't ask a lot or say, because often I've been remote, at two different companies. I was 100% remote at my company when I was the company I worked at when I got pregnant with Drew. So I was remote through gas price up and down. I understood the benefit of it. And I think a lot of people didn't. It wasn't the thing at the time, except for probably those who were already nomads and such. But this particular, the job that I just retired from, I just asked. I just made up my mind that before I wanted to move to a place, I wanted to travel. And I felt like I needed the security, despite what my husband said, to just let's both be working doing it. I'm like, let's not do everything at once. But we knew that one of us would retire. We would go, we would go. We knew that there were certain steps that we laid out for our plan. I just didn't want it to be why we were nomads. I wanted to keep my job, have that sense of normalcy, see how I felt working in the different places. And my manager was like, we're a global company. It was like, he actually forgot. He would forget that he signed off on it. And I would have a one-on-one or something. And then he say, you're in Portugal? And I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, when you did the training the other day, you were in Portugal? I'm like, yeah. He's like, if you're doing your work, half the time people don't care. And if you run into someone who has traveled a lot, they're going to say, good. Like, he thought it was the greatest thing for Drew. And he got the opportunity to do it with his kids many years back. And he said, Drew's gonna love it. This is gonna be good for him.
Yes.
So my point is just kind of ask, because I think sometimes we tell ourselves no before we even ask.
Right.
We should just see, and if it might be no, and it might be time to find something else, but it could also be yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And yes. Which is what happened with you, Mel. So he's asking, Curtis is asking, and then we're going to take this last question. We'll let Drew have the final word with Vanessa's, and then we're going to go, y'all. We're going to go. So what, if any, adjustments did you have to make about the different work cultures between now working for the European office as opposed to the U.S.?
Well, so I have a mentor in Europe that I've been working with her for a while now, right? And she says, you should bring your authentic self to work, right? And when you come to Europe, bring your authentic self, your authentic culture, bring it, because it adds to the flavor of what's going on. I think that in the US, I could not bring my authentic self to every conversation.
Right.
And the big change is that when I came in the office, I had to realize that I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to prove that I belong here. I don't have to take a step back. I can actually be the authority in the room because I have the knowledge and I have the direction that where I want to go. And I had the sign off of the chief operations officer. He signed off to do this. So let's get it done. Right. So I think that's the biggest adjustment was being free and to be free in the conversation.
That in and of itself is a privilege. And we did not ask AG3 because he also transferred.
He transferred.
No one has ever asked that question before.
But I thought he worked for the military.
No.
Because he was in the Army.
Yeah, he did. He was, but he worked for a military. He worked for a corporation.
Okay.
And so we've interviewed two people who worked for corporations that allowed them to transfer. And this is the first time anybody has asked that question on air. All right, Drew, have you been able to maintain friendships, I guess, in the U.S. as you travel? I have a 13-year-old son as well, and I'm concerned about the ability to maintain friends. Do you have online contacts?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I talk to my friends all the time.
In fact, what were we doing before we came in here, Drew?
Talking to my friends.
So do you do video calls?
Yeah.
Through
it's
WhatsApp?
like, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's an app called Discord. And I can use it to text my friends and call my friends on video. You could do a whole lot of things with it.
And it has parental controls and everything. So he even introduced his friends to his friend outside of school to his friends at school, and they have their own little thing so they can talk on there too.
Yeah. So Discord is the platform, y'all. You probably have heard of that because people build communities on Discord.
Yeah. It's a lot like WhatsApp.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, Drew, for having the last word.
Yeah,
thank
thank
you,
you
Mel
so
and
much.
Tadassi, for giving us 2.5 and plus hours of your time this evening.
Yeah.
You know, I
Pleasure.
don't
Our
know
pleasure.
that
I
I,
always say, like, we're regular people. Thank you for having us. I don't know. I
yes.
mean, we don't.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, definitely, 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 definitely. So, you know, we have talked a lot about slow travel, about traveling around the world, about actually moving and relocating to another country. If you have any more questions, our information is below. You can book a call with us. Again, we have Beyond the Bling coming up, which we're really excited about. For the folks who took the financial challenge about 2 months ago, y'all know it's on point. If you don't think you can ever retire, you know our story. And even if you're getting started late, it can be done. So
It can be done.
Yes.
And you're not, and believe it, you're not stuck where you are.
Thank you.
If you don't want to be, all you got to do is come up with a plan.
And we can help with
We
that.
can help with that. I mean, you're listening to good people like this. You know, they did it.
Yep.
They did it.
And we're not
definitely
special.
not the
Yeah.
exception.
We're-
We're not
we're-
special.
No.
Exactly.
No, not at all, y'all. Not at all. You know, we climbed out of $20,000 worth of debt and we just got it done. So it's all in priorities. And somehow those bling bling shoes at Nordstrom's just didn't mean as much
They don't mean
anymore.
as much.
when you're trying to get someplace.
Yeah, when you're trying to get someplace, you see
Shoot.
that light at the end of the tunnel. You like,
That's right.
don't I have some of these already?
That's right.
And Mel said it. It's the freedom. It's feeling free.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
just having that, knowing that it's being free.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So next week we will be in Manchester in the UK, and we will be interviewing someone who is a digital nomad, and she is also an authoress. So you need to tune in,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next week, y'all. Thank you. Love you.
Love you guys.
Bye.